This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, we have packed a few different shows together that we call highlights to help you to get the most bang for your time and educating you on the topics that you want to learn from. We would love to hear from you. I am grateful that you are with us today. Have a blessed day. Our guest is Mark Davenport. Thanks for being on the show, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Mark and his partner, Phoebe, sold their single family house 5 years ago and have been on a real estate investment journey since, moving from duplexes and 60 units to most recently a 12-story tower block. It's been a fascinating journey so far, he says. So, Mark, thank you for being on the show. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your journey. You know, some things we were talking about before the show and just like how you've been aggressive to scale and being willing to take risk and, you know, being willingness to take that next step. I think it's just so crucial that we hear those things when we're getting started in this business and we understand we can't do it. It's difficult. It is not easy to be willing to take the risk and to take the next step. I'm looking forward to hearing how you have done that. But give us a little more about who you are, you know, what you're doing in real estate. And then, you know, I want you to help us and the listener to be, you know, willing to take that next step as well. If you're never willing to take the next step, even though you don't have this amazing plan in place, like you're never going to get there.
Right.
You know, you're never going to get to that point where it's like, okay, like you said, I mean, you know, oh, here's the amazing plan. Let's get started. Well, no, you know, you do have to have some faith in yourself and just your ability to keep pushing forward. You do have to have a plan of some kind, but it's never going to be this amazing thing that you're probably dreaming of in your head, you know. Mark, can you speak to just like aggressively scaling, you know, and being willing to take risk and what that looked like for you?
Yeah. So we were living in Brooklyn, New York at the time, and we had developed a duplex and a fourplex in New Hampshire. And then we relocated to Brooklyn, New York, and the properties were cash flowing. We'd renovated them pretty much top to bottom. Tenants were great. It was a really good, in many ways, a really great situation. And then I read a book about Elon Musk, and I had this epiphany, and I was so impressed with just one part of him. There's probably a lot to be said about many parts of him, but I was impressed with one part of it, which was like he wasn't nostalgic about the companies he'd started. He was always looking for the next thing and happy to surrender his kind of current position or his current company back in the early days in order to get something new. And I was just like, oh man, these properties we have, they're doing so well, but you know what? They're now worth so much more than what we purchased them for. And all that equity is sitting in the house doing something because the property's cash flowing. But man, if we could reinvest that equity and have the same success that we had with those initial properties at the next level, man, we'd be scaling. So we just decided, we'll put one of them on the market. What are you we have nothing to lose. It's already cash flowing. We'll see if we can get out what we want. And then, of course, it sold. Then the other one sold as well. And then we bought 2 6 units and a 3 unit. So we went from 6 to, I don't know, what is that, 15? And in the course of like 6 months, 8 months. So the key for being aggressive for me was, you know, appreciating the past, enjoying it, seeing it for a good, you know, if you've developed a situation, you are now in a better situation, but then also seeing, well, if I cash this in, I can make plays from here on out and I can kind of go to the next level. So that's kind of what we did that with that particular thing. Then we did it again with those 15 units in New Hampshire. We did another property in the process. But anyway, we had this portfolio in New Hampshire. And when we moved to Kansas City, which is where we are now, it was like, well, we have this New Hampshire portfolio and it's doing great again because it's all cash flowing, no problem. But again, like if you take the equity that's in it and sell it and you're able to realize that and get that money out and then reinvest at the same level as you did before, and then you jump. And so we did it. We bought a 12-story tower block and just acquired another 6-story one. So it's now 109 units. But really, it's just the idea of, you know, you do one thing, you do what you have on your heart to do, I guess, or whatever. And then once you've done that, it's like, cool, that was great. All right, what's next?
Nice. Now you're at 109 units. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. Just being willing to take that step. Most people aren't, or, you know, they just never will take that step. And I would just encourage the listener right now, just to listen to Mark's story, you know, and just realizing, wait a minute, you know, there's a big opportunity here. And man, you took that step. What about just getting your wife or Phoebe on board as well? Or was she just gung ho about this decision and moving into real estate and taking these risks as well?
So I don't get her on board with anything. I mean, that's just not that's just not the dynamic of our relationship at all. In fact, I think probably it'd be better for her to be interviewed and then be asked, how did you get Mark on board? That's probably like the better way for that to go. But I mean, from day one, it was like a joint thing. We make decisions together. She shapes me, I shape her. Initially, it was more kind of me, like, because there was so much renovation initially with the duplex and the fourplex and even the six. It was more kind of me hands-on doing that. So much of our growth was tied to the physical improvement of the property, and how we decided to do that was leverage my time to do it. But now that things have grown, she does so many different things. Like so no, I didn't get her on board, fella. It didn't go down that way.
Well, tell me about the purchasing of this 12-story block. Tell me a little about that deal and how you moved in. I mean, how do you purchase that? Coming from smaller properties, to getting into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole story there. I mean, it was February this year. February this year. And we'd sold our New Hampshire stuff, and we used a 1031 exchange to do that, to defer the capital gains. And so the resources are there, and we're like, okay, what can we do? And saw this building on the MLS on realtor.com, and it was like, wow, how is it even possible that you can kind of get a project like this? And so it's in a town a couple of hours away from where we are. So we drove in, saw the property. We're like, this is exactly what we want. This exactly represents scale, opportunity to renovate, to improve management. It's in a kind of not a small town, but a town with a population of about 40,000. So we're very familiar with working in those types of towns. That's where we worked in New Hampshire. And it was just a wild ride. It continues to be a wild ride, really, because I reached out to all the banks in the area to see if they'll, finance the deal. Of course, COVID is kicking off at this point also. A couple of the banks were up for it, and one bank in particular was really keen. So we ended up working with them to underwrite it. The seller was an interesting character. There's lots of stories in like the property as to why it's in this position. And we closed the deal. We got it done. And it was a wild ride, though. It really was a crazy journey.
What were a couple of things that you learned through that process? I mean, whether it was working with the bank or working with the seller or just closing a project of that size?
Yeah. So for me, most of the stuff I learned, most of the significant things they're all internal things. It's all me learning to not let my fear motivate my actions, or learning not to be anxious about a situation. So the biggest thing for me was like walking into a bank or talking with a commercial lender and just being confident and allowing and presenting myself to them, and seeing that as a legitimate thing, because it's all internal for me. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love to scale, is because I'm also improving myself, because I am kind of afraid now of a 200 unit building. Or maybe I'm not, but that's only because I've done so many of them that I've learned to handle my fears in terms of properties. But it's all internal. It's the anxiety. It's like, oh, what if this happens? What if all the tenants leave? What if I can't underwrite it? What if there's just so many, the mind can be like this fear factory. And it's like, how do you get a grip on that and, choose to live a different way? So for me, it's all self-management. I guess there's probably some other things as well, but like the bigger things are all internal.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. Like the bigger things are internal. And I've said this numerous times on the show that, people think that I or our team have some big like magical gift or extreme knowledge from the beginning about whatever, about commercial real estate or multifamily. And I just think more than anything, it's just the willingness to keep going, keep learning, keep pushing forward. I think anyone listening can do what we've done, what you've done. But the hardest part is that mental part, like you're talking about from the very beginning, and learning. I love how you said you learned how not to let your fear motivate your actions. So important that you can learn to think clearly in a time where most people are fearful.
Right.
It's such a good skill. So how did you finance that? And why was that lender so interested in this project?
So I had the idea that we would approach local lenders because it's a local situation. There are obviously banks that are much bigger, have even a footprint across the whole US. But we were like, this is a property that has been managed a certain way. It needs optimization. It needs renovation. It needs lots of the vacancies filled. Like the local banks have a stake in this. Like surely there are some local banks who have a vision to see this building and the downtown, actually, because this is the biggest building in the city, like thrive again. And so that was kind of what it was. It was a bank that the lady who I met with, and we still work with because they're financing other projects we have. I think there was a meeting of vision, I guess. And like the numbers worked, like we came in with our down payment and everything, like all that stuff is still, you have to kind of tick your boxes. But at the end of the day, I think they were willing to go with us because of the vision, and they understand. And that to me is incredibly profound because we're just driving into the city. We don't know anyone. We've never been there before, but we have a history of developing some real estate, yes, smaller projects, and they've taken a risk with us by doing that. But my guess is, I mean, you'd have to talk to her, but my guess is that they saw the vision and ultimately wanted that for their town.
Nice. I just think it's incredible. Just talking about you painted a vision for them, and they could see that vision, wanted it for their town. I think it's incredible. Mark, what's been the hardest part of this journey to commercial real estate, and purchasing something like this? Whether it was something in the beginning or something in that deal specifically. What's been the hardest part for you and Phoebe?
So that particular deal was super. We didn't contract until we'd done all of our due diligence. We'd inspected the building, we'd gotten a loan commitment, so we had no agreement with the seller. We'd done everything, which was risky. Like typically, I mean, a contract, and then you do your inspections and everything. You start investing once you have an agreement to buy it. We did all of that first. So that was something of a challenge. But again, the real challenge was the fear, because I was afraid. I was like, what if I lose thousands of dollars because this deal doesn't close? So really, actually, even underneath that, it's a mind game.
Our guest is Oscar Buendia. Thanks for being on the show this morning, Oscar.
Awesome, man. I'm stoked. Like I've told you before this, I'm a fan of the show, and I'm excited to be on.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you on. And first, I just want to say, thank you for your service, Oscar, to our country. He's in the military, and just want to support him in that way, and grateful for that. But a little about him. He and his brother, German, are making it happen in real estate investing. They are owners of REI Brothers and Good Day Capital. REI is their podcast for financial freedom through multifamily, and Good Day Capital is their real estate investment firm where they bring deals to investors. Oscar, again, welcome to the show. Grateful to have you, and get us started a little bit with your specialty in this business and what you all are focused on right now. And let's dive into how you've done it.
Okay, awesome. And so a little bit of my background. So it started, like most people, finding the smaller deals, whether it was through wholesaling, subject to, I did a little bit of any of those. And then recently, actually in 2019, we purchased our first large individual. It was a JV between my brother and I, a 20-unit portfolio. And it was all small multifamily, non-commercial. And from there, I mean, it just opened our mind to limiting beliefs and dropping everything as far as how you can scale, how you can make the puzzle work, and the lending piece of it, which up until then, I was looking at just regular residential lending. And then I started looking into commercial, really found these ridiculous interest rates that commercial lenders provide. And I was like, wow, this is such a better way for margins for everything. And then from there, it just blew up. I mean, we started getting deals from anything from 50 unit to 150 units, and mainly in Ohio. That's where we were our entry point. And because Ohio is a cheaper entry point, just allowed us to do that. That was one of our main strategies, is looking at what market we can tap into and at our comfortable entry point, right? If you go to Florida or Texas, the entry point might be a lot higher, right? So that's something, someone who's scaling, you have to look at it, make sure you're comfortable with, because you don't want to get in over your head either.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit. I know there's many of listeners who are in your shoes, or have been, or almost wish they were, maybe, and getting to the point that you have now and thinking through that a little bit. I wanted to back up to how the small multifamily, you talked about exposed those limiting beliefs. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I think there's just the mindset around that so crucial in getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was doing wholesaling at the time, and I actually had a couple deals taken from me from a mentor, right? Quote unquote mentor, where I found like a 50% margin. He basically flipped them, and he took $1 million off the deal. I didn't know what to do with them at the time, but he took them. And then from there, I got kind of sour taste at that level of real estate. So I started looking at at other markets and how to get bigger. And our initial process was, hey, let's go buy a few homes, pay cash out in Ohio, entry points cheaper. But we were approached with a 300 unit portfolio residential, and they wanted to offload it. And we said, okay, well, how do we do this? 300 units. Eventually, we scaled it down to 30, and then we realized, okay, let's stick at 20. That's our comfort number. And it really, even 20 at that moment was hard because we were talking close to $1 million. And we were looking at how to structure it, how to everything. So we started calling people, lenders, you name it. And finally we got the help to say, hey, this is how you should structure it, and we can help you. And we're like, oh wow, man, that doesn't seem too hard. Let's just do it. Ran numbers, felt comfortable, and just took action from there, right? And that's what I mean by crushing those limiting beliefs, because until you put yourself in that situation to say, can I do it or not do it? You won't know. Before that, everything's in your head saying, oh no, that's too much for me. That's out of my realm. But the moment you get in a situation and your back is against the wall and you want to make it happen, if you truly want to make it happen, you will, right? If not, then it's not meant to be, and that's okay because another opportunity will come. But now you have that experience through that little setback to know, hey, I can go and do this at another time because now I have that little bit of knowledge, right? So that's what I mean. And
Can't
it
be afraid to
completely crushed
fail,
it.
right?
Yeah, it can't be. And then completely change our mindset because now we're talking with people and investors with millions of dollars. You would have told me 2 years ago, I'm talking with people that have $80 million in reserves that they say, hey, if you have a deal, let me know. I would have told you you're crazy. I that's a whole different world, and it's awesome.
So tell me about some of the first action steps then that you took, or like finding a mentor. Did or what did that look like? You already had a bad experience with a mentor, right? But moving forward, did you use mentors then, or how did you find them?
No, so this was all trial by fire initially, right? Once we got to that spot where we were, well, let me back up. Trial by fire in the fact that I had other buying holds in Colorado Springs where I was stationed at before, and it was all working well. So I learned how to do it at a smaller scale first, individually analyze the numbers, and then from there, that's when we did a large, single shop purchase. But we made a lot of mistakes, right? So we did horrible on due diligence. I mean, this was a pure mom and pop owner. She had everything in a notebook. So we had to verify everything. And even then, when we verified, there were things that were wrong. And, you know, we messed up on it. The responsibilities on us where leases were actually not correct. And then just the turnover, once you take over, tenants are just, they know and they don't want to do anything. So we had a lot of headaches and we learned from that. But because we had so many headaches, that right there then forced us to think, okay, we need true mentors, right? And for us, it was key. It was Jake and Gino. We joined the Jake and Gino community. I can't speak any better about them than I do all day, every day, anyway, because they truly are. We get like 4 coaches and everything from analyzing deals to this and that. And yeah, I can't. And that to me has been instrumental because it's changed also our level of sophistication. And I'm all about reaching out for coaching and mentorship. With our podcast, we're looking to monetize and ask people and pay people who have done it as far as like, hey, how do you properly monetize? Same thing with affiliate marketing for our website, things like that. I mean, if I'm not an expert and I haven't done it, I'm going to reach out to the people that have done it. And if I have to pay, that's okay because I'd rather pay for quality than stumble my way into people who don't know what they're doing and just taking my money.
No, I know Jake and Gino personally. I can't speak highly enough of them. I just, just personally, I mean, they're just amazing guys. And so grateful that you brought them up. But then I just also just finding a mentor like that. I know to me, it was just crucial, finding someone that I could ask questions of, right? It just gives you that extra layer of confidence that you wouldn't have, just knowing that there's somebody there that's on your side. Unlike that first mentor, that
Yeah.
you talked about, you thought he was going to help you and then ended up helping himself. And I
Yeah.
would say he missed out. He could have had
Right.
somebody that, to partner with and and made a lot more money long term. But I think it was somebody that was very short sighted, right? Very short sighted. But that what about, now you've got into the business, you had a setback there in the beginning, but you pushed forward, you discovered some limiting beliefs, you found a good mentor, now you're doing, somewhat larger deals, you've opened your mind up to doing bigger things now, in the real estate space. Talk about some of those systems that you all have created, that's helped you to think about scaling now.
Yeah, absolutely. So that has been the biggest thing in this past year because we realized without a proper system and proper base and a team to take care of things, especially being a W-2 worker, right? I'm still in the military. My brother is retiring this year, but he's gonna be the boots on the ground. The issue, well, not the issue, but what we discovered is we need to scale that, right? So first thing is I hired an executive assistant, and I'm talking about a quality one. I didn't go for a VA. There's a difference, right? So and she created SOPs for me. She created a lot of things that I could do, but I don't have the time to do, right? And she now, like for example, our podcast is it turns. I record, she takes the recordings. I I don't worry about anything. I just, pretty much just get on a call like how we're doing now. But then with those SOPs, we're going to pass it down to other VAs who are going to handle our marketing and our part of the house. And then working really hard on the investor relations side, which is we have platforms. I'll name my platform Invest Next, or where we show our deals. And, I think that's one of the cheapest and best platforms out there.
And I want to give them a shout out right now. We also use InvestNext,
Oh, you
and
do?
just a great team. We've worked with them for, I guess, a little over a year now, and have
Yeah.
done numerous deals through their platform. Can't speak highly enough of them and the customer service alone. You can actually find on our website on Whitney's recommendations I think it's under our About tab on our website. You can find a link to InvestNext and put your email in there, and we'll get you some information about them and connect you. But anyway, glad you brought them up. Glad you're using them. But I wanted to back up. You hired this assistant. You said quality. Well, what does that mean to you? And I've used assistants for lots of things, and whether it's job specific things versus now I have for the best assistant that I've ever had as far as a personal assistant. What does that mean to you though, Oscar, as far as having the quality assistant versus just finding somebody on Upwork or whatever?
Yeah, I think for me is someone that could critically think based on what I'm giving them as well, not just follow a simple direction, right? And also education to me plays a factor, right? The person that we hired, for example, she has an MBA, has operations experience, and she went to a American satellite school in Mexico and speaks better English than me. Probably better English than you. I was so impressed. And that to me is quality because it shows that she can also, while she lives in another country, she can relate at a high level with business individuals here in the US. And she's gonna play a key role in investor outreach for Latin America, which we're working on right now. But that to me is quality, right? If I'm hiring a graphic designer, it might not be, I don't need someone who has an MBA. You know, I need someone that can do great graphic design and maybe post here and there for social media. But when it comes to the operations of an actual business, I need someone to know business.
How did you find this person?
So I looked through Upwork, Fiverr. There's one specifically for Philippine. I forget the website.
Onlinejobs.ph.
Yeah, that one. But I looked through everywhere, right? And then trial by fire as well. I spoke to about, I don't know, 10, 15 different executive assistants, and they're not cheap. I mean, they're anywhere from minimum $20 an hour to you name it, right? So you gotta pick your flavor and your price range, but you just gotta do it, make a commitment. Shout out to Michael Hyatt's book, World Class Assistant. If you're reading that book, yeah, your time maximizes, right? So now you have time to do what is important, which is actually plan out and run your business. Not
Nice. My assistant and I have both read that book. That your world class assistant, and been through some of those things. Can't recommend that enough either. I think I read it in a day. It's a really quick read, but very, very worth your while. Oscar, speak to a couple systems that you and your assistant have put in place that have helped you to say gain back more time or be better organized or be more productive.
oh yeah, I mean, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, just the fact that she created our SOPs for the social media and our podcast. I mean, social media and podcasts were taking up so much of our time. And anyone that says, hey, that's their main gig, that's awesome. But that's not our main gig, right? We like that because we educate. We also get to meet people, talk to people, and vice versa. But our job is landing deals. And for this past year, it's taken a lot of time. So she went ahead and created those stops. And from there, I mean, I'm telling you, I don't really worry about it. She I record the Zoom. She knows to be annotated. From there, she throws it out, puts it into a folder, all the deliverables from the company that we use to create everything. And then from there, she starts scheduling posts on our social media, things like that. We'll comment back and we'll do that piece. But as far as all the minute things, and beforehand, I sat down and I wrote down everything I want to outsource and everything I want to do. Commenting and interacting is something I want to do, my brother wants to do. But the posting and the little details of how to make it happen, I don't want to do that. That takes time, and it's not value added to my time.
What would you do different now on your first deal if you'd have known then what you know now?
Man, it's hard to say, why? Because that first deal, even though it brought us a lot of problems, opened up so many doors, right? So I don't know if I would have done anything different. To be honest, I wish I would have found syndication and joined Jake and Gino beforehand, because I think we would have been in other deals that a lot better. Because one of the things that we pride ourselves in, we were pretty good at off-market deals in Ohio. We networked a lot with wholesalers and just guys boots on the ground, and found ways to bring them in if we close on the deal, and that worked very well. So I think we could have done that better, but man, I can't say I would change anything really, because I mean it's been an adventure and it's been a great one, and it continues to grow the way it's supposed to, right?
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.